Okay, my name is Paolo Gaudenzi. I'm from Rome, Italy. I'm working at the University of Rome La Sapienza, and there I'm full professor of aerospace structure. I'm the director of the Master in Satellite Systems and Services, and I'm also the coordinator of the PhD course in Aeronautical and Space Engineering. I started my career a few years ago, and it was maybe the starting point was the PhD in aerospace engineering that I was awarded by in Rome in 1989. And then in 1990 I was hired as assistant professor in aerospace structure, same at La Sapienza University of Rome. After just 1 year, I moved to MIT for doing 1 year and a half as a visiting scientist at MIT, and then those were my first steps in the career of in the area of aerospace and space disciplines. Well, I'm working on several things. Of course, I'm doing my job as a professor, so I'm teaching 2 classes. I have a class in space, or what we call in Italian costruzioni spaziali, that means space constructions, space structures and systems. And then I have also a class in smart composite structures. That is a technology that I was working with for many years. So first job is the one of a university professor, having class and making some good education for our students. Then there are the responsibility, as I mentioned before, for the organization of the professional master in satellites and the PhD course in aerospace disciplines. But I'm also deeply involved in research activities. We have myself, my group and colleagues, we are involved in several activities concerning aeronautical and space structures. In the area of composite materials, we are developing advanced composite with smart capabilities like embedded sensors or electronics or energy harvesting capability, antennas, and so that we have mechanical systems that are totally new because they are really advanced with respect to traditional structures. But we are also working in the modeling of the behavior of space structures, and we are recently working in an important project for Airbus Space and Defense, working with the analysis, structural dynamics behavior of Ariane 5 launcher, while also doing some activity for the development of the new Vega launcher and the advanced version of it, so in the area of structures. While doing that, we are also working a lot in the area of space systems, and namely in design procedures like concurrent design procedures for advanced space systems, and we are also working on the design on new missions and space infrastructure. So this is just a few ideas on the research activity. So, but I'm not limited to research and education. We tried also to implement a little bit of innovation. I started with my young people at the university in my research group a startup company. The name is Smart Structure Solutions, by which we try to implement in practice for service and products some technology developed in the space field. We have developed some smart structures technology. I've also published a book with John Wiley and Son in this area of smart structures. We combine with this technology with the information that we might have from satellites assets like GPS or Galileo or Earth observation assets to provide services to to monitor the structural integrity of mechanical infrastructures, so that we can prevent mechanical failures or advise the asset owner to provide to maintenance when maintenance is needed. By doing that, we provide an added value to the customer, because the asset owner knows how to prevent mechanical failures that have not only dramatic effects for the damages that they might create, but also implement ways and means of managing the assets in such a way that the maintenance is done just on condition and not based on emergency or on regular inspections. So I'm active both on the educational side, on the research activity, and also in innovation. Maybe the thing is that that I like most is to express somehow some creativity in our as an engineer. Maybe somebody thinks that engineers should not be creative, or just they are they are working in a boring environment, fulfilling some technical issues that has to be very precise, very clear, very well assessed. And of course, as an engineer, I would like to do that. But there is a lot of creativity, of finding new challenges, and finding, it's more importantly, new solutions to the challenges that are open. So this is maybe, along with curiosity, the thing that moves me going forward. There were a lot of changes. I'm maybe not in the position of giving very general evaluation. For my perspective, what I see is that actually we actually live on a more global perspective, and we feel this globalization as part of our life. And so, I mean, we cannot disregard the problems of all the parts of mankind that is actually in bad difficulties or in bad problems. So we share the view on how we are performing on our planet. We are sharing the difficulties, and we need to share also the solution for everybody. This is my perspective. So the world changed in a way that everybody should be conscious that we are all together, and we have to face difficulties in life, and the life for the planet as well, all together, without thinking just to ourselves. I think that there are signs for a new revolution, a new era for the space field, in which, first of all, the space is recognized to be important exactly for this globalization. There is no other environment like space to understand what the globalization actually means, because you can see things from a wider perspective, so your horizon is completely open, so you can see Earth in one shot. This doesn't mean that you have to see Earth in remote. I mean, you should be close to the problems, but you can have a wider perspective, and this is very important. And so I think that in this area there are signs for more countries to be important actors in the space arena, like China or India or Brazil, and that were not placing so many efforts in the last 30 or 40 years. So new actors, and there will be new interest from the market for real applications, business, and solutions also for in terms of social benefits that space could provide to mankind. So this will require some changes in the organization of the space business, less involvement of governments, more involvement of the business area or the local governments for very special and detailed needs of population. That would require also a dramatic decrease in the cost structure of space technology. Maybe space qualified components will not only used, and we will place a lot of research, a lot of development, maybe by spinning in sub-technology from ICT that might improve the performance of space technology and systems. And moreover, we will have more attention to small satellite system and constellations, having a small spacecraft with very high tech components on board that should be ready to perform special missions that are especially properly okay for such kind of spacecraft. And also there will be a lot of innovation in terms of launching capabilities, and also especially for small satellites, we might have the need of launching a huge number of small satellites, and nowadays the launches are not are not organized and set for such a huge number of spacecraft, and so we will see a lot of novel things and innovation in space. There is no special thing. I mean, as usual, the mankind has to control technology in order to drive technology for the good and not for the bad applications. Of course, there is always the danger of transforming technology that is thought for good reasons into bad technology. But this is the responsibility for mankind, for governments, for everyday people. Probably nowadays people are more aware and informed about the characteristic of the technology. So the diffusion of technology that reaches us in our portable phones or in our cars and vehicles has made us more aware on the way that technology should be used, and also the dangers that are behind a bad use of technology. So I'm a little bit more confident than in the past of the fact that people would control such evolution of technology nowadays a little bit better than in the past. Maybe it's just a hope, but I'm convinced that this will be done. Yes, I am, provided that we consider the danger for the planet Earth, its resources, the need for a better distribution of resources for everybody. We cannot withstand anymore such a difference in terms of consuming resources and having access to education, to healthcare, even to the basic elemental needs like food. So we cannot withstand anymore the fact that there are so many people being in danger because they have not access to the everyday amount of water, food, and shelter and care, in terms also of health. That it's a right for every person on board of this planet. It's very difficult to provide advice. I think that young people should do their best to independent, to be free, to be educated, to fight for their own education, because education is the first step towards freedom and the first step towards assuming responsibilities towards other people. I suggest them to deepen their education in a very specialized area, just to be expert in a certain discipline, then to open up a little bit their minds and to see how this discipline is placed in the frame of all the other competencies, so to have a general picture on where is their future activity can be placed. And then the suggestion is also to be creative as much as possible, to find new solutions, new ideas. We need fresh minds to do that. And also to be tolerant with respect to diversities. I mean, in the global world, you would be expected to work with people of different race, of different uses, of different nation, languages, even religious, personal beliefs, and so on. And tolerance is a major point. I mean, everybody should be tolerant with respect to the diversity that is a richness of our mankind. Is not a limitation. It's a pro, is not a con. So we should profit of all that, and young people should have a role in promoting this tolerant aspect. And also, it's in the mind of young people to work for good. I mean, to work for the benefit of everybody, not for their own personal interest. And I'm sure that young people in Bulgaria, as in all the other countries, will pursue this thing.